morning and welcome to Rising. We have another great show for you today. It is Wednesday morning, unless my eyes and ears deceive me. We were up late monitoring the election results, which they didn't have any at the time we were talking about them. But
but it was an
they
interesting...
do now. It was kind of not a great night for the squad, is what I understand. Their preferred candidates did not win.
But we did have some... It was a good night for J.B. Pritzker, who put $5 million into the race, and it was a test to see whether or not he was even relevant as a... I mean, what do you feel about him running for president?
J.B. Pritzker?
Yeah. People say he might throw his name in the hat in 2028.
He's a billionaire, and I thought Democrats hate billionaires.
Well, I guess Bernie Sanders does. We got to see about the rest of them.
I think that would be unlikely, but we'll see.
All right, coming up on Rising, President Trump has been voicing his frustrations with NATO and even says that he doesn't need Congress to remove the U.S. from the alliance entirely.
Plus, Senator John Fetterman took some shots at fellow Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez over her stance on Israel.
And Chief Justice John Roberts is speaking out against those attacking judges, saying that it's dangerous and it has to stop. But first, Robby, what's on your radar?
Well, a high-profile counterterrorism expert has departed the Trump administration. Joe Kent, who serves as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, announced he was resigning over differences on Iran policy. In his blistering resignation letter, he blamed Israel for duping Trump into attacking Iran, which he says posed no threat to the U.S. Ken writes, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it's clear we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful lobby. As a veteran deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people, nor justifies the cost of American lives. Kent's wife died in Syria in 2019. Those who agree with Kent that Trump's war on Iran is a mistake have praised him for actually following through and sticking to his principles. Glenn Greenwald writes this, massive respect for this. Joe Kent thought he had joined an administration that would steadfastly avoid rather than recklessly start Middle East wars of choice, the kind of which he fought and in which his wife was killed. He thought Trump because Trump repeatedly said it. And libertarian commentator Liam McCollum writes, Joe Kent's an American hero. After his wife was killed in Syria, he opposed the Middle East wars as a combat vet and Gold Star husband. The hawks were already attacking him, foaming at the mouth with hate, might be the most ungrateful, entitled people on this earth. They always talk about how freedom isn't free and how soldiers pay the ultimate sacrifice. But rather than respond to people like Joe Kent with respectful disagreement, they hate him, and it's obvious. The question now is whether Kent's boss, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, is inclined to resign as well. Gabbard, of course, has generally kept a low profile throughout Trump's second term. One would expect she isn't thrilled about the war since she previously said that Iran posed no threat to the U.S. as well. 1 year ago, she told Congress that Iran had no plans to resume its pursuit of nuclear weapons. Remember this?
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
Gabbard spoke out after Kent resigned, but only noted that the American people elected President Trump to be the commander-in-chief and that he believed Iran was indeed an imminent threat based on the information that he was given. I, for one, am glad Gabbard is in the administration, bringing her civil libertarian perspective to national security issues, but if you're wholly opposed on paper, at least, to the admin's actions, I think there's an argument. Maybe you have no choice but to do as Joe Kent did.
I thought Tulsi Gabbard's statement was...
a lot of criticism yesterday.
It was about as neutral as you can be. It's what she didn't say in there. She didn't say that she supported the strikes. She didn't talk bad about Joe Kent in any way. She kind of neutrally said... Yeah, she didn't even mention him. So, and it's like that was...
But she's the one that said, she has no intelligence that Iran was going to attack the U.S. or could attack the U.S. or was building a nuclear weapon. That was a year ago. Trump says he has intelligence that they are.
She would be the one providing the intelligence.
She would be the one providing the intelligence.
Yeah.
Is there some intelligence that she's not aware of? I mean, that's kind of what she's saying. But...
And she said she ultimately doesn't make the decision.
Us with intelligence that we don't have? Their intelligence capabilities are better than ours? I don't know. It's confusing to me. Joe Kent, he was a non-interventionist. He's of the Tulsi Gabbard school of thought. He bravely served his country. His wife was killed in Syria. I'm not sure I'm not informed. I would need to hear the argument for why he thinks what happened in Syria in 2019 is Israel's doing. I'm not real sure about that. Maybe in the comments, people could fill me in. I don't know what he means by that. Look, if you're this opposed to what the administration is doing, I'm not sure. I think probably you should resign. So, good on him for sticking by his principles. He was getting a lot of praise from Greenwald, from other non-interventionists. MAGA was going after him. Interestingly, he had been denounced during his appointment by the mainstream media for his perceived ties to, Groyper-type people, Nick Fuentes or something, although I think him and Nick Fuentes had some dispute. I think Nick Fuentes, my understanding is, because it came up in the Tucker Carlson interview, is that Nick Fuentes endorsed him for something, and then he said, I don't want this endorsement, and then I don't know. I can't even follow. But
I understand that.
The mainstream media went after them for having him too close ties to Fuentes-type people. Now, of course, since he's criticized Trump, he's being celebrated. I saw all morning on the telescreens in the main area of our newsroom, MSNBC, MS Now, excuse me,
yes,
gotta respect
excuse
your
you.
pronouns, praising this brave truth teller, this dissident, someone they slammed as a white nationalist a few short months ago. But now he's anti-Trump, so he's all good.
Well,
it's Marjorie Taylor Greene story all over again.
You talked about him, from what I understand about him being a veteran, that he, served for 11 different, he was deployed 11 different times. This is not somebody who makes a decision like this loosely. Somebody who lost their wife, not somebody who makes a decision like this loosely. So when I'm reading his article, I think it opens up a problematic trend within the Trump administration. We saw what happened in Minnesota when top fraud officials stepped back because they were asking, I believe, those officials, the main one and 10 other people, to look into the wife of Renee Good. And they were like, why is this the main sticking point of the investigation? They felt like it was mishandled. And so this is another example of some...
to drive off. We can hear it on the tape.
But this is, if people who work closely that the president has trusted to do high-profile jobs are stepping away because they think that there's something unsavory about the process, this is now the second high-profile time that we're seeing it happen in Trump's administration in really serious times. So Americans were killed. This war is happening. These are two extremely serious times where people that are in leadership roles are like, this is too much for me, I'm out. That otherwise have supported things like immigration, otherwise have supported the best relationship with our allies, and also if we need to protect ourselves. He's saying he has no information about how to protect ourselves. And he's also saying that it's not adequate, the information that was provided on why we still decided to get into this war. He said it's not the imminent threat wasn't made clear. I mean, the average American is watching the several different responses as to why we're even in this war and saying the same exact thing. So I don't really understand why people have such a hard time understanding it when both sides of the aisle, there have been calls for the president to explain more how this is not a war for another country as opposed to a war for the U.S.
Another person it would be interesting to hear from is Vice President J.D. Vance, because J.D. Vance was close with Kent. I was reminded of a tweet from a year or so ago of J.D. Vance praising Joe Kent in some podcast appearance he was doing. It might have been on Tucker Show. I can't remember where it was, saying how smart Joe Kent is. Vance is the leader, really, of the non-interventionist faction of MAGA. So he's seemed especially quiet. Because he's a team player. There's no way he's going to disagree with Trump publicly.
Yeah, because everyone's trying to manage loyalty.
He does not agree with
Fine, so now you're saying that J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard have no backbone. They won't they'll manage their loyalty, and their loyalty is not to the country. It's to the president, because they know if you end up on the wrong side.
How many times did Kamala Harris come out and say Joe Biden was wrong?
She
wouldn't even say that after he was done.
And I called her out for that.
But
But your example can't always be how many times has it been wrong on the other side. I said it was wrong of Kamala to do that. I said Joe Biden should step to the side. I'm sitting here looking at people that are adamantly against major policies that affect all of our lives. Even if you only care about U.S. first economically, it affects all of our lives. And sitting back, saying and doing nothing. I think it's equally as bad as sitting back and saying, oh, Biden can lead, this is fine, when you know that the floor is on fire underneath you. I think it's equally problematic. And I'm looking forward to all the think pieces about how the president should have handled all these situations differently, as we be so reflective like we are with Joe Biden about how he could have handled his entire presidency differently.
Well, we're not done talking about the situation in Iran. Trump suggested yesterday he thinks the U.S. should consider withdrawing from NATO over how they've responded to his calls to deal with the Strait of Hormuz. We'll discuss that. More Rising right after this.
President Trump putting NATO on notice, criticizing the alliance for not helping the U.S. protect the Strait of Hormuz and signaling that he'd think about withdrawing the U.S. entirely.
Don't threaten me with a good time. You may remember over the weekend, Trump implored allied countries, as well as some adversaries like China, to help keep the Hormuz Strait open amid the ongoing war. Here he is on Air Force One on Sunday.
We are demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory because it is their territory. It's a place from which they get their energy. And they should come and they should help us protect it. You could make the case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil.
So far, no other countries answered that call, prompting the president to lash out on social media. He wrote in a Truth Social post on Tuesday, "The United States has been informed by most of our NATO allies that they don't want to get involved with our military operation against the terrorist regime of Iran. I'm not surprised by their action, however, because I always considered NATO, where we spend hundreds of billions of dollars per year protecting these same countries, to be a one-way street. We will protect them, but they'll do nothing for us, in particular in a time of need. Because the fact that we have had such military success, we no longer need or desire the NATO countries' assistance. We never did." Speaking as President of the United States of America, by far the most powerful country anywhere in the world, we do not need the help of anyone.
The president doubled down moments later during a bilateral meeting with the Irish Taoiseach, even floating the idea of the U.S. leaving NATO. But European leaders seem to understand that Trump isn't happy with them. Politico reports one European official told them, quote, "Leaders are well aware that it's a one-way street with him, that they can no longer count on the U.S. the way they used to. But most are looking to avoid a total rupture." That official went on to say if there's a lack of interest in what he's asking, it's because Europe is already stretched economically with defending Ukraine. It's important to note that per a 2023 law, the president would need congressional support to withdraw from NATO. Either support from 2/3 majority of Congress could act on its own, or Congress could act on its own. Experts, however, say Trump may try to sidestep that law by citing the president's constitutional authority over foreign policy.
Meanwhile, the Hormuz Strait continues to be effectively shut down as the war rages on. Yesterday, Israel announced that missile strikes the previous night had killed two top Iranian leaders, General Gholam Reza Soleimani, the head of the Revolutionary Guard's all-volunteer paramilitary militia, and Ali Larijani, the secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council. Larijani was thought to be one of the key figures leading the country following the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on the first day of the war.
So Iran's foreign minister was on Al Jazeera, I believe. Oh yeah, Al Jazeera yesterday, and he said the Republic has a robust political system and you can kill as many leaders as you want. We have the entire Iran Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and so we're going to keep going forward. So if the plan is to end this shortly, and I'm just telling you because it's supposed to be an off-ramp, and this is we're talking about a huge military, so you're going to just kill every single person until it's done, and then
Correct.
New people might be inspired to rise up. I mean, look what happened in Afghanistan. But never mind, don't use history as a lesson at all. Just keep on skipping over it and try to change Middle East regime.
Does Iran want to become Afghanistan?
I'm just letting you know. Iran is much bigger than Afghanistan. They want boots on the ground in their country. That's what he literally has been saying on air. Is that what we're willing to do?
Bigger physical space.
Is that what we're willing to do?
We're not sending boots on the ground.
That's what they're saying.
Precise military strikes to take out the leaders of the.
And they're saying taking out the leaders is not stopping the show. So let's just
Okay.
keep on going. And I understand
We are going to
why.
keep on going.
I understand why Germany, Italy, and Japan don't want to be involved because they see what's happening all over the Gulf to these countries that are getting bombarded, not only tourist areas, but shutting down their economies. They're seeing the way the U.S. economy is affected. And they're saying, why are we getting involved when you don't need help? You started a war. Wait, listen, you started a war and we don't feel like jumping into it with you.
It's fine.
It's not like somebody's attacking the U.S. and we're begging for help.
It's not their fight. They don't have to be involved. And Ukraine is not our fight, so good luck with that. That's exactly what Trump's position should be. Great. We'll take care of this one and have fun with that. Russia, your responsibility. It's your continent, not ours.
So
Good luck.
that's the problem, is an aggressor started with Ukraine. That's an aggressive country that we don't have a good relationship with. And they're in Ukraine bombarding them. And it's close to our allies in NATO. And they are asking for protection because they've essentially been attacked in certain ways. We have not been attacked. We have not been attacked. We have information. We have information. Somebody just quit because they said there wasn't adequate information to say that we were feeling threatened in any real way. And we went to war. And now we're asking people to help us out.
They fund Hamas, and Hamas attacked Israel. So this
and
is
Gaza,
in fact an example.
And the Gaza Strip was obliterated. And the Gaza Strip was obliterated. Yes, that was the response, Robby. You're not allowed to do endless response. That would be called international war crimes. You're not allowed to endlessly respond to war. Like you have the right to defend yourself. You can't just kill everybody in every country because you want to, because you were attacked.
Look,
so they had the right to defend themselves. They did defend themselves overwhelmingly.
We can do this one of two ways. We're the superpower, and get on board with us, and we'll protect you. And in which case, yes, then it is our duty to help Europe fix its own problems. Or we'll do it the other way, which is good luck, everybody. So if they're now going to say good luck, they don't get to say no to us. They can't take billions and billions of dollars from us and then say no. This is what Americans have been so frustrated with, the bipartisan foreign policy consensus in this country, which has been these countries get endless amounts of money from us, from U.S. taxpayers, and they don't have to do a thing we want.
Okay.
You take the money and you fall in line. And if you're not falling in line, then you don't get the money. That's so obvious, Lindsey. Who could be against it?
So
is there a single person on earth who would think that's fair, that we should just give them endless money for their defense and then we can't call on them to help us?
That's not true. The U.S. puts 15% of the budget for NATO forth. That's $750 million. But the rest of the budget that everybody's counting together, saying that it's billions, is because of our U.S. defense budget that we say is open up to the places that we would like to protect in case of emergency, that also protect the U.S.
The emergency was defending them from the Soviet Union, which doesn't exist anymore.
I'm letting you know that everyone is trying to conflate what we actually pay into NATO with our entire U.S. defense system, and that cannot count for protection of other countries. We make decisions for ourselves. The U.S. has more defense spending than the 12 countries under it combined. Okay, you're going to blame that on NATO? It's no, because we would like to be the superpower, because the president has put billions more towards military strategy. You just saw his son is invested in drones. He wants to put billions that way. Like, we spend that. NATO didn't ask us to spend that. And so we're counting that as, we keep it protected with the latest.
The entire world. They're not contributing to our defense.
They're contributing to NATO. We contribute 15%.
NATO
Other countries are.
NATO is about protecting Europe from the Soviet sphere. We have to spend so much money on defense because we have other concerns, like China, like the Middle East, terrorism, South America, dealing with rogue regimes. We just took out Maduro. We're looking at Cuba. We're dealing with problems in our own hemisphere, and the biggest problem, the number one problem, is China. So there's so many other things. Russia is doing bad things, no argument there. And I was for a settlement and diplomacy to end that conflict, and Trump was too, and he found out it was pretty difficult because Vladimir Putin's being totally unreasonable about it. Okay, fine. Then we can spend more money defending them, but they don't get to. Then they just don't get to say no when we say. And also, you're going to move some ships over here.
And Trump doesn't.
They say no, then I take no check.
Trump doesn't get to ruin a relationship that we've had for decades. I mean, think about it. The UK Prime Minister, the French President, they are having dialogue with the president about possibly helping at the Strait of Hormuz. If Italy and Germany have a choice and saying otherwise,
your adult child living with you, saying you're gonna have negotiation about whether they're gonna make their bed, pick up their room, or pay a little bit of rent or something. No, they're just living there free and didn't get a job, playing video games all day, and you're just supposed to deal with that. That's not being a responsible parent.
Don't you think having
We're
U.S.
be a responsible
bases
parent
in
to
our
Europe
territory
and have them
protects
do as
the
we
U.S.?
say?
You don't think having U.S. bases and access to our allies' land protects the U.S. in any way? There's no benefit of us being in NATO and having troops stationed there and access to land that pushes real adversaries further away from us because we have military access to them way more than they have access to us. That's not helpful in any way to be part of NATO.
I did not take the position that it is of no benefit to us. I took the position.
But he wants to quit it without even asking Congress. So he's taking that position, the president.
If they're going to say no to us, then we're pulling out.
That's called bullying.
Then they don't have to take the money. Then they don't have to live. Then they can go get their own apartment. That's what you say to your kids when they're being irresponsible. Up next, the Senate voted 51-48 to begin a long and contentious debate over President Trump's Save America Act. Don't go anywhere.
After narrowly passing the House, the Senate on Tuesday voted 51-48 to open debate on President Trump's voter ID bill. Senator Lisa Murkowski joined Democrats in opposing the bill, while Senator Thom Tillis, another Republican opposing the legislation, was absent.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune blasted Democrats on Tuesday for opposing the SAVE Act by calling it mindless and partisan. Speaking on the Senate floor, Thune said this about Democrats blocking the bill.
Did Democrats hear themselves? Are they going to start boycotting libraries and airplanes and hotels and for requiring a photo ID?
Meanwhile, President Trump earlier Tuesday pledged not to endorse lawmakers who would vote against the Save America Act. Trump took to Truth Social, writing in part, only sick, demented, or deranged people in the House or Senate could vote against the Save America Act. If they do, each one of these points separately will be used against the user in his/her political campaign for office. A guaranteed loss. Get your senators, Republican or Democrat, to vote yes on the Save America Act. I will never, ever endorse anyone who votes against Save America.
This law would require voters to show approved photo identification to vote in federal elections and proof of citizenship to register.
An analysis by the National Conference of State Legislatures found that 11 U.S. states currently enforce strict photo ID requirements.
Now, those states include Arkansas, Georgia, Indiana, Kansas, Mississippi, North Carolina, Ohio, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Wyoming, and Alabama is also on the list with narrow exceptions to the requirements.
Lawmakers took to social media to express their views on the SAVE Act. Senator John Cornyn wrote on X, "I'm glad the Senate will debate this bill and hold Democrats' feet to the fire to see who's willing to go on record opposing voter ID and proof of citizenship to vote. Let's get it done."
But Senator Mark Kelly wrote, quote, "The Save America Act doesn't save America, and this isn't about voter ID. This bill requires everyone to re-register to vote in person, and your driver's license, real ID, or military ID aren't even good enough. If this becomes law, it will disenfranchise many Americans."
This is something...
I know, majority of the country
Vast
likes, I don't understand.
Okay, but Lindsey, it's just like, in this very partisan, very divided era where most issues are like, 50-50, or at best, like a 55-45 issue is a winning issue for this is an issue that's like an 80-20 issue. It just seems like a no-brainer to just vote for it.
Right. So
I can't put myself in the shoes of Democrats who are like, I have to oppose this. An 80-20 issue is like really decisive in this climate.
Sure. Now let's look at the people who aren't participating in polls because they don't have the time, because they're living below, paycheck to paycheck. And they live, let me finish. And they live in rural America, and they have trouble either paying for a new passport or a new birth certificate, or they have trouble getting to the place where they would try to get those items. And so we're not going to give them for free then. If the Republicans also want to tie the idea of we need identification to free identification.
Rodeo clown
who says that it's not
is not going to vote for this.
What are you saying? There's people that are actually, the census showed that 10% of the country is actually living below the poverty line. So is that funny? Should they be not engaged in their civic duties? No, they're not voting on this, Robby. That's what I'm trying to say. There's people that are going to have to figure all this out, people who got married that already were registered, that are obvious citizens. And the biggest point is that there's no evidence of any fraud from immigrants coming to this country, because it's been proven by the Conservative Heritage Foundation. They found 0.00%.
Actually look up this.
Go ahead, please. It literally, there's no proof.
Proven, prosecuted cases of fraud.
To find more, you rather disenfranchise Americans and make it uncomfortable to figure out how to specifically engage, because you want to make up some story about migrants voting that are coming here illegally, which is not happening, and there's no proof of that. So you want to enact a law based on something that's not happening, but possibly disenfranchise people.
Too many ballots being mailed all over the place. We need a total shutdown until we figure out what's going on. We just gotta make sure everybody's voting.
No, you can't just throw statements like that out there. There's not too many ballots being mailed all over the place.
Yes,
mail-in voting has worked effectively for years. There's been no instances of examples of widespread fraud, and there's been specifically no instances that change the outcome of any election. So again, saying that makes no sense, tying it to a new law that needs to be passed, especially when there's actual laws that need to be passed.
Americans don't believe that.
There's actual laws that need to be passed, like open the TSA. There's actual things Congress can be doing, except for looking at how to talk about migrants voting, which is not actually happening. So, I mean, Congress can actually get to work and focus on something that's really a problem.
Most people want this, and it's just asking for the same thing you get asked for when you go to the bar or when you go to check.
You don't get asked for your birth certificate at the bar. You can use your real ID or your current driver's license. There's some problems there that you need more identification. 2 forms, a birth certificate that matches the same name as maybe your driver's license that you changed after you got married. So it's making it convoluted for people that were already registered to
the problem
vote.
is that some immigrants can get those forms of identification even though they're not eligible to vote.
And some problem with that argument is that immigrants have not been proven to be voting in any way massively to change any outcome of any election.
We can't use a form of identification that someone who's not eligible to vote does receive.
You know what? I would do the same thing if I had no winning issues. So Republicans are looking at this state of things and saying, you know, what can we run on the midterms? Oh, let's blame migrants again. That's a good plan. And that's what's happening right now. And I think everybody should get the smoke out of their eyes and see that this is a strategy to have at least one winning issue before November.
I think we should not worry about losing the homeless rodeo clown demographic and just go ahead and vote for this.
Coming up on Rising, Chief Justice John Roberts is warning against personal attacks on judges. Stick around for that in my lens.
All right, Lindsay, what's in your lens today?
Let's discuss. So Chief Justice John Roberts isn't someone who typically steps into the political spotlight, but this week he felt the need to say something, and that alone says a lot about where we are right now. He acknowledged that criticism of the court comes with the job, but warned that something more dangerous is happening.
The problem sometimes is that the criticism can move from a focus on legal analysis to personalities. And you see from all over, I mean, not just any one political perspective on it, that it's more directed in a personal way, and that, frankly, can be actually quite dangerous.
And he didn't stop there.
Judges around the country work very hard to get it right. And if they don't, their opinions are subject to criticism. But personally directed hostility is dangerous, and it's got to stop.
Now, that warning didn't come out of nowhere. It came just days after President Trump went on another late-night tirade, this time targeting the very court that has often ruled in his favor. On Truth Social, he called the court, quote, inept and embarrassing, attacked individual judges as, quote, crooked and out of control, and insisted that he has the, quote, absolute right to impose tariffs, even after the court made it clear that power belongs to Congress. And don't forget, after the Supreme Court struck down key parts of his sweeping tariff policy, President Trump didn't just disagree with the ruling, he went after the justices themselves.
The Democrats on the court are thrilled, but they will automatically vote no. They're an automatic no, just like in Congress. They're an automatic no. They're against anything that makes America strong, healthy, and great again. They also are a, frankly, disgrace to our nation, those justices.
Now, here's the reality. Disagreement with the Supreme Court is not new. It's part of democracy. But what Roberts is pointing to and what we're seeing play out right now is a shift from debating decisions to undermining the legitimacy of the people making them. And that matters because the judiciary doesn't have an army. It doesn't control the purse strings. Its authority depends almost entirely on public trust. When that trust erodes, especially from the top down, it doesn't just stay in the political arena. Federal judges are already reporting a rise in threats and harassment. Words don't exist in a vacuum, especially when they come from someone with a massive platform, someone who runs the country. And let's not forget, this is a Supreme Court with a conservative majority that has handed Trump some major wins. But when it draws a line, like it did on tariffs, reaffirming that the Constitution gives that Congress power to tax, suddenly the institution itself becomes the target. Now, that's not about ideology. That's about power. And if we get to a place where rulings are only respected when they benefit one side, then the rule of law itself starts to feel optional. Roberts did not name Trump, but he didn't have to. The warning was clear. Criticism is fair game, but personal attacks that chip away at the system itself come with major consequences.
You know, I'm a supporter of the Supreme Court and the independence of the Supreme Court. There are decisions, of course, that I disagree with. The tariff decision was not one of them. I think that's firmly within Congress's power, not the president. Donald Trump is not the first person to find out that you don't automatically get to do whatever you want, that the Supreme Court exercises more and more jurisdiction over major legislation, over acts of the president, particularly because Congress refuses to do its job and actually legislate. So the court has stepped in to fill the void, and that's appropriate. It's a 6-3 court in favor of the conservatives. So
And
if you
Justice
can't,
John
if you
Roberts,
can't win there, it probably you had a really bad argument.
and Justice John Roberts is a conservative himself, and he's looked at as like more institutional, more pragmatic. He's been that deciding vote to either sway sides based on what brings the most stability he feels to the court and some of the decisions that he makes. So
Also, the two most like right wing in the Trumpian mode, the people most likely to give total power to Trump or let him do whatever he wants at this point are Thomas and Alito, who were appointed by Bush. The ones that Trump appointed, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett, are less likely to vote with Trump. So this isn't about like, oh, if only he could appoint all the justices, they'd always side with him. No, the 3 he appointed, again, they vote with him plenty of time. And then some of the times it's 9-0. That sometimes they all say, no, this government's argument is ludicrous, or the government's correct. Like, people fixate on the ones that are contentious. Plenty of the decisions are not contentious and go universally against the government or universally against the challengers.
Justice
Lay off
Roberts,
the Supreme Court. That's what I
he's
always
also
say.
arguing that justices feel, federal judges across the country feel less safe and uncomfortable because there is a rise in harassment and threats because of the language coming directly. He didn't say Trump's name, but from the president. I mean, we see the president calling these people names on Truth Social. We saw immediately he went to the podium after the tariff decision came down. He immediately started calling people names, and he always resorts to that. We talked about that yesterday, about when you don't have the words, you start to call names, and you wish that we could elevate the conversation a bit.
Oh, I should correct myself. I just said that Alito was appointed by George W. Bush. Thomas was appointed well before, maybe by the first, either by Reagan or the first Bush. I can't remember which one. Anyway, sorry about that.
So how do you
I
feel?
want to correct myself.
That's good.
I threw off your train of thought.
I did. I'm like, okay.
No idea what you were to say.
No, I'm saying the threats. Okay, that's what I was talking about. The threats that are coming to these federal judges. The president has to take some accountability for his words. He goes out on Truth Social and writes these blanket statements, often condemning people's character and personally, when he could just talk about the law. He can just literally debate the law. He's the president, and I think some responsibility.
I know, that's just who Trump is, though.
I know, but why did
It
we
is
just
what it
accept
is.
that? That's just who Trump is. That's who Trump is when
Why?
he goes
I
to
don't
war
know
with
if I
Iran.
did.
So Tulsi Gabbard has to say, oh, that's just who Trump is. That's J.D. Vance who's against war. Oh, that's just who Trump is. Why does everything have to be, that's just who Trump is? How about people stand for something? That's what people are asking for. That people within the MAGA base, that's why there's so much infighting. Some people want to stand for something. They don't want to fall for anything.
All I mean is the argument that Trump is too rude on social media and shouldn't be president for that reason has just never worked with anybody.
But
Never.
do people care about the harassment of judges? Do
No.
people care? No one cares that people are getting harassed that are trying to do their job.
No.
Well, that's unfortunate. I want
don't-
our country.
I'm sorry. I care. I don't like it either. I would leave the Supreme Court alone. I didn't like when Obama called out the Supreme Court to their face.
Did he
and
call them
made
names?
You lie remark, remember?
I remember that clearly.
Or you lie was a congressman.
Yes, you
I got
lie.
all my facts wrong.
You lie. Obama never said you
What
lie.
am I
Obama
saying?
never said you
No,
lie.
No,
but
but
yes.
but Alito said that's not true, or mouthed those words back to him or something. I remember
But
watching
that again,
You lie
Obama
was the congressman.
Obama didn't attack. He didn't call them personal attack. That's what the president is doing. He's personally attacking these people.
He used a more eloquent manner of speech, but he absolutely personally attacked.
You know, the president right now
Citizens United
is having a
You-
conversation about Gavin Newsom not knowing how to basically eloquently speak.
Well, that's
and
what
why he
Gavin
shouldn't be
Newsom said
president.
that.
Yes, but he said
Gavin
he
Newsom,
shouldn't be
like, I don't know
president
how
for
to
that reason.
speak.
But he
Don,
himself.
Gavin Newsom doesn't know how to speak. How dare you? I mean, come on.
Texas Senate candidate James Talarico breaking his silence after weeks of online criticism, how he's defending some of his past statements. Stay with us. Texas Senate candidate James Talarico finally responding to a barrage of attacks in recent weeks over several social media posts and statements he's made in the past.
Talarico's been under fire for, among other things, saying that God is non-binary and that Jesus was a radical feminist. when speaking on climate change. He said that it's, quote, existential, that we must try to reduce meat consumption. He's running for Senate in Texas, remember? And in a separate instance, he said, quote, you can't call yourself a Christian and destroy God's creation with greenhouse gases, seemingly attacking two of his state's biggest industries, oil and beef, and called radicalized white men, quote, the greatest domestic terrorist threat in our country.
And then there was this tweet that was read back to him on stage this week at the South by Southwest Film Festival. Take a listen.
So we've got white skin gives me and every white American immunity from the virus, but we spread it wherever we go, through our words, our actions, and our systems. We don't have to be showing symptoms like a white hood or a Confederate flag to be contagious.
Here's how Talarico responded.
It's an important thing to recognize with all the attacks that are coming from MAGA toward our movement right now. All of them depend on taking these things out of context. In that case, it was a tweet that was part of a larger thread about how we all have a responsibility to combat racism. And so would I word it differently? Would I use a different metaphor? Maybe. But I still believe that racism is wrong. And I still believe that we all have a responsibility to combat it. And I think it's telling when some people are triggered by that.
Now, Talarico went on to criticize Republicans for what he calls one-party rule in his state and issued a warning for his party, too. Take a listen.
We have been suffering for 30 years under one-party rule. And one-party rule, no matter if it's the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, always leads to extremism and corruption because there's not a check on that power. I'm a Democrat because I feel like it's the best vehicle to unite working people so that we can improve the lives of ourselves, our families, and our communities. But if the Democratic Party is not doing that, I have no problem calling it out so that it can do a better job.
I like that podcast is called Raging Moderates. None of those three people on stage are moderates whatsoever. Jessica Tarlov, who I adore personally, and as a Fox commentator, I think she's great. She's not a moderate. Scott Galloway is not a moderate at all. He's deranged in my view. And James Talarico is not a moderate.
He was touted the entire campaign as a moderate. You compared him next to Jasmine Crockett.
Yes, I was wrong.
And read the news reports. So he's a more moderate.
Are you ready for this? I was wrong.
Woo!
I was
Robby said he
totally
was wrong.
dead wrong. Jasmine Crockett was the more electable candidate of the two. I have never been so wrong. He hates meat, and he loves to mask up for the science, and racism is a virus. Why do people have to talk about racism in this just very like Ivy League sort of? Can't you say racism is bad? Don't be racist, guys, and move on to the next thing. Racism is a virus for which we must inoculate ourselves. Like, this is so off-putting to people. I think it's off-putting to people. Just say racism is bad and move on.
Well, I think it's a metaphor for the spread of racism, not specifically to who to blame it on. Anybody can be racist, right? But I think if we think about racism and how it's embedded, and we've seen historically how it's embedded and has been in laws, in housing practices, housing biases, in school funding gaps in certain neighborhoods, it's embedded systemically in a lot of ways. And so if we consider it, like, it still is in a variety of ways. There's still people who don't get certain loans. Like, come on, my parents were one of them. They tried to get a home loan, and my dad had like $20 on a credit card that he missed a payment, and they say, oh, because of that blip 10 years ago, I mean, it still is a problem. So, and if you did the same thing, you would get the loan, Robbie. So just, I do know about that.
In the 1960s, you're right.
You're right.
Today,
This is when I'm just saying it's happened in our history. It's not that a lot of people like to brush off racism as if it's such a historic past. It still is real. But the war on drugs, look what happened. Yes, the war on drugs, stop and frisk in New York. It was, people were jailed for no reason that were just looked Spanish or black or Latino or black. So we know there's been rules that have led to racism.
Stopped for that reason.
And then put in jail. There's people that died in jail that were...
If they were found carrying illegal weapons.
No, read up on the stories, Robbie. I'm not going to break down how many people...
I'm agreeing, they were stopped for racially biased reasons. They were incarcerated because they were...
ran away from the police, then they didn't do anything.
Well, running away from the police is a crime.
Well, maybe they didn't want to get shot and killed. Maybe they didn't want to get shot and killed.
Well,
should they be in Rikers Island?
Should
they be in Rikers Island for running away from the police? I just want to know for someone who doesn't. No, this is literally.
I said, well, were found with illegal weapons or they ran from the police.
Okay, so the point is he's talking about things that are embedded. We know that extremism happens a lot of times in siloed groups that perpetuate online and in spaces that lead to hate, spreading to other hate. So you get
Like
almost
ISIS.
indoctrinated. Yes, exactly. Racism could be compared to that. A bad person talks to a bad person, you start to see their side of the story, and then you are racist. Racism has led to deaths. People have died because of racism. Slavery is all because of racism. So do you not think it's equally as bad? I'm confused.
Slavery.
We don't. I never said we do, but we did have it in this country, and the president wants to take it out of our 250 celebration coming up in the summer because he thinks it's too bad. He's lecturing.
Well, James Talarico wants to takes meat off your plate. That's
James
not a good thing
Talarico needs to
run
read the
your
room in the
on.
place that he's running on in Texas.
Okay,
My
thank
partner
you.
is from Texas. I could say that. But I'm not going to argue that James Talarico can't speak about racism, whether it's profoundly or in a very straightforward way. Anybody who speaks about racism to me is my cup of tea because we need to address it and we need to eradicate it. It's important, like a disease. Get rid of it, unless you think otherwise.
I don't think it's helpful. First of all, that was during COVID. I think it was very weird to be talking about racism as if it was a disease at a time when there was an actual disease.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I'll tell you why this is relevant.
Why?
Because we were all locked in our homes and told not to go outside, have to wear masks everywhere, and refrain from all healthy human activity. And then George Floyd happened, and then suddenly there were mass protests, riots then, in every city in America. And I thought you would have expected the medical community, the experts running our society, to say, hey, don't do that. You can't go outside to protest. You can't go outside to do anything. But instead, Fauci and others gave permission for outdoor activity, for mass social gathering, because racism is also a virus, and this is the way to counteract it. And that was insulting to our intelligence, and that was the first time I said, wait a minute, these people have no idea what they're talking about, and this is about vast social control rather than any kind of disease mitigation efforts.
It's somehow
That's
you
when they
found a
discredited
way
it.
to tie this entire Talarico conversation back to
I didn't.
COVID.
He did because he described it as a disease. And I was saying why that was part of a deliberate effort to give social permission for that kind of advocacy, for that kind of social gathering and activity, lefty protesting, and no other.
I'm going to go on a whim and say COVID was the worst time of your life. I thought that,
Mine and millions of other people.
I mean, you're alive, Robby. You just had to sit inside for a little while. I know you like to go out. I know you like to enjoy yourself. You had to sit inside for a little while, Robby.
Well, we don't have time to get into it. It was worse than that, but all right. Senator John Fetterman's blasting his fellow Democrats for their opposition to Israel, especially AOC. We'll be right back after this. Democratic Senator John Fetterman joined Fox News' Sean Hannity for an interview on Hannity's new podcast. In that interview, Fetterman repeated criticisms that he's had of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, especially when it comes to Israel.
During her appearance at the Munich Security Conference last month, AOC characterized the war in Gaza as a genocide, but Fetterman blasted those comments as tone deaf. Take a look.
Well, to accuse Israel as genocide, and you're sitting in Germany, can you talk about tone deaf and just ignorant to the history of it? I mean, more than 6 million Jews, the Holocaust, and now to accuse Israel during that just war for genocide, that's my issue.
This comes as Fetterman has frequently distanced himself from the Democratic Party in recent weeks. On Monday, he responded to an article suggesting support for Israel has plummeted among Dems since the October 7th attack on the country. He wrote on X, "I don't follow the polls. As a Democrat, I unapologetically stand on the side of moral clarity and our ally, Israel."
And he followed that up with, quote, "I'm deeply proud to stand with Israel through the horror of 10/7. I'm deeply proud of our military and what they've accomplished in epic fury. Picking country over party is never wrong."
Yeah, I mean, he's the most moderate person in the Senate. He's the most popular Democrat.
Figure out, give Marjorie Taylor Greene this way and give him over there.
I mean, he's a Democrat in a state that Trump won.
I understand. I'm not saying that his thoughts aren't valid. I'm just saying you can't blast everybody. Everything is not that black and white. Obviously, as we talked about multiple times, Israel has the right to defend itself. October 7th was a disaster. It was a terrorist attack.
And Fetterman's to
And
my right on this issue.
That's what I'm saying. He's very adamant about it. And every time,
extremely defensive.
Every time we look at commentators, like even if you pick Tucker Carlson, it's like everything about him has to do with being anti-war and anti-whatever Israel's best interests are. Well, he is the exact opposite of that. Everything can't be about that. We have to think about what America wants. Some people, because of MAGA, feel like it's supposed to be America first. Some people just feel like it's our opportunity right now to fix the economy and other things. But I don't know what his issue is and why both people are so obsessed with this. Israel has the right to defend itself. We are now in a peace plan in Gaza with several other nations contributing billions of dollars about a way forward that's seemingly working. We'll see. At the same time, bombing another Middle Eastern country on behalf of what some people view as Israel. So naturally, there should be questions about our loyalty to one of our allies more than even ourselves. If a lot of people in America, I don't know if it's the majority or not, if we're not looking at polls, I know people that I've spoken to are confused about why we're in this war.
Well, you know, most people who want to attack Israel also hate the United States, so that's why we're. I thought being there for our allies was a good thing.
We can
when
be
it
there.
came to the Russia-Ukraine.
Yeah, we shouldn't get in wars for our allies. So Russia was an aggressor that attacked.
Israel got attacked.
No.
By an Iranian proxy group.
No, this is
during
Iran. A time when they were already attacking back, and we put in a peace group to settle that situation. So we said Israel has the right to defend itself. It did, to the point that international communities and people who looked at it said this is going a bit too far and have even condemned Netanyahu's decisions as going too far. And so if AOC agrees with the international community that have said this has gone too far, allow her to. That's her right to do. But that doesn't mean we have to endlessly get into every single war.
That then launched a 9/11 style terrorist attack on our country. I mean, this already happened to us. It was Afghanistan, not Iraq. Afghanistan, the Taliban, involved in the attack, the 9/11 attack on us, and we responded by declaring war in Afghanistan and attacking them.
And the whole point of our country, right, if it's going to be split into a two-party system, is to debate ideas that they adamantly disagree about. And one of those ideas happens to be whether or not we should be in another Middle Eastern war. And so John Fetterman has to be okay with that, and AOC has to be okay with that.
That's true.
They're going to have to just disagree.
Well,
that's the whole point of. That's why we have Congress for a reason.
Disagreement on the right as well about this issue.
But if the president would have went to Congress, they could have talked about it amongst their peers and done a job again that's more effective than passing the SAVE Act.
I know, but Congress doesn't even want them to. We can just pass a SAVE Act. Congress can't do anything. What's the point of going to a Congress that won't even vote on that? One of the most popular pieces of legislation that has ever appeared across their desk. That does it for us on Rising Live. Look out for more exclusive YouTube content coming your way today, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hills YouTube channel so that you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. We will see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.